everybody is doing good, and today the topic is how to arrange funds for your masters, may it be US, may it be Netherlands, may it be Canada, wherever. So it's a very important question, and most of the countries have a very primary concept behind how the funds has to be shown. Of course there are exceptions, but I'll cover the major ground. So all of these students who are looking out for masters, they normally have a very big concern that how is the funds to be shown and how much funds is to be shown. Okay, so in this regards I would talk about few generic and how things can be planned beforehand. So firstly, if you're looking out to study in masters, you definitely need to understand that country visa concept and how they want. Typically US, Canada, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, all of these have very similar rule that they need us to show 1 year funds. Leaving New Zealand and Ireland, they typically want to show, they will be asking you all the funds together. Let me not confuse you. So if you're looking for US, Canada, other places in Europe and UK, we have to show 1 year funds, even if you're going for a 2 year program or higher than that. This 1 year funds is basically 1 year tuition fee and 1 year living cost. So if $10,000, for example, is your fees, plus $10,000 is your living cost, $20,000 is bare minimum that we need to show for our expenses and for our visa approval. Now this fund is basically to be sponsored to you by your sponsors. Your sponsors could be your parents, both your mother and father. It could be your blood relatives. So if you have your nana, your nani from maternal and paternal, both the sides, of course we have to prove how they're related to you, but blood relatives are also okay. So it could be your aunt, your real uncle, it could be all of these people who can support you together. Typically it is okay to have 1, 2, 3 max sponsors to show these funds. And the sponsors can also be taking an educational loan for you, because an educational loan normally requires a guarantor and of course something for a mortgage. So in this case, your educational loan is also an acceptable funds when it comes to going abroad. A lot of parents and students have concerns that is educational loan going to be negative on their visa acceptance. No. You get an educational loan because you have the necessary documents and proof, and in fact the consulate and the embassies are assured that as you have a loan, that means there is funds available to you. So never ever think that as I am going to take an educational loan, it might be a hindrance to get a visa for that country. It doesn't work that way. You can be rest assured, may it be any country, loan is a viable option. But the loan has to be a sanction letter in hand. It cannot be a loan which is typically just an approval or an principal loan approval letter. It doesn't work. So when you're filing up your visa or you're going to the embassy, you need an original sanction letter signed and stamped by the bank. So that is how the funds work around. Along with it, you can also show funds in liquid account. So money in savings account and fixed deposits are acceptable. However, if your parents have a lot of funds in shares, mutual funds, gold, property, they are not acceptable by most of the embassies because they are fluctuating money and they cannot be sold immediately according to them, and hence it doesn't come under liquid funds. So in case if your parents are looking out to fund on their own and they are considering that they have a good portfolio or a mutual funds, in this case, they cannot be directly used. They might have to release that fund, park it in their savings account and then show the savings account money. Or else, if it is not in a condition to sell, they better take an educational loan and not make a loss by releasing their shares or mutual funds or bonds just because your timing is to go this year abroad. So these understanding has to be there. US, by far there are a lot of flexibility when it comes to funds. However, there are certain embassies like Ireland, New Zealand, they require a lot of documentation, even Australia. But it is preparation that is required and nothing much beyond that, and hence arranging the funds is a tricky question, but you should know that how much and how it is required. A lot of you go online to read communities and false information and misguided information that we have to show 2 times the funds, we have to show 1.5 times the funds, we need CA documents, we need this document, we need that document. Every embassy will not give you direct listing of the documents on their website, but a right support and a mentor or a visa officer who files it for students year on year can absolutely give you that understanding and knowledge behind. So you need to figure out first that which embassy you're going in for, have the right information, and then start the preparation. So this is where the students falter. They feel they require 2 times the funds. So either they drop the plan altogether to go because they feel it's not possible. Of course, 2-year funds is very huge to show in the savings account. So that's one of the thing. The second thing is that they pressurize their parents so much that unnecessary they make losses somewhere, they sell their shares or they sell their other things, and in fact they are not in a comfortable zone, but they're just doing this because they want you to go abroad, okay, and fulfill your dreams. So please be cautious on whom you're getting the information from. I know right now we have so much of information available. It's like medicine, So whatever symptoms we have, we normally start to Google about, my head is paining, my eyes are spinning, and stuff that way. And everything boils down to a very, very negative spear when we are looking out for our symptoms, and mainly it comes to cancer, as you see in that case, okay. So what I'm trying to say, even doctors suggest the same. Please do not Google your symptoms, okay? Because you might go on a right track. And the same way I am suggesting you, please do not Google visa, information and stuff, which is so damn critical because it is subjective. And hence, the embassies do not have a direct checklist of what is required in the visa file, because every case is different, and hence there has to be supporting documents according to your profile. So when you're looking at spending lakhs of rupees in your university and you're going to go for a career which is your dream, I am assuming you should not take it lightly. I'm letting you know that you should be very cautious here, and you should take full charge by actually looking into the expert information, okay. So how to arrange funds for your masters is very simple here, okay. Firstly, you need right information about your embassy that you're applying in for, okay. You may go on their website, but I'm sure most of them do not have the entire checklist. A rough checklist might be there, but not the entire checklist. The second thing that you need to do is that if the country requires this point, you need to understand how much funds is required right when you start the application process, so that your parents are better informed and they can take baby steps, and while you have an admit and stuff, they're ready with their funds and their documents. You should look for loan partners, 3 to 4 of them, because all of them have different offers nowadays. A lot of loan partners like state banks, they normally will give you 80 to 85% of the loan, and they'll ask the rest 20 to 15% to be shown by your parents. If that is a problem, you have NBFCs and private banks which charge a little higher interest rate, but they give you loan with a ease, okay. And they will also have 2 types of product. They can give you unsecured loan as well, and they can give you secured loan also. So in case if you do not have things to mortgage, there is still educational loan available to show that. So this is how you show and plan your funds. So this takes time, and hence early preparation is required. I cannot stress enough on how much it is important to have early preparation and start early, and second, to have the right mentor and guide to help you to go for your dream university and country. Again, I would come down to removing your expenses. So once you go to your desired country, most of the countries allow you to work part-time. So if you're allowed to work part-time 20 hours a week, a lot of these funds come down to a range wherein it won't be directly from your parents' pocket. A lot of support can come to you while you're there and you're working there. If you work there, it is just not because you need money. Studying abroad and working part-time is like a combination that you should never miss, because I have done that myself and I feel that was the best experience that you can have for yourself. And why do I say that? Because it's very different to have that character or that essence and that experience to, it could be a cafeteria, to basically serve a coffee rather than get a coffee always. So I think that's something which every student should do. You have money or you don't have money, studying abroad and working part-time is one of the best combination that you should go in for, may it be for undergraduation or post-graduation. So this is what I am looking out for, to reduce your cost of living by working part-time, so that you can at least remove the rent or your ancillary cost while you're there and hence support your parents as well. So these are varied ways about doing it. How to get a part-time jobs, I have done a session before. You can go on my YouTube channel and absolutely look for it. Or if you still have doubts, you can DM me about it and I would be more than glad to support and answer you back. So I hope I relieve a lot of stress on how to arrange your funds while you're going for your masters. There would be subjective questions because every profile and financial background is different. I am more than happy to answer them. DM us and we will reply back. See you guys.